It's Friday, February 16th. A woman who lost her mom to cancer when she was just 12 is telling Rosie how she turned her loss into a healing place for children coping with tragedy. All that, hot topics, and more coming up on Season 10 of The View.
Like me, Kate Atwood lost her mom to cancer when she was just a child. She turned her loss into a healing place that's called Kate's Club, that's helping children cope with the death of a loved one. Please welcome Kate Atwood to the show. Hello, Kate.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. And where do you live? In Atlanta?
Yes, I'm in Atlanta.
You're in Atlanta. You were 12 years old when your mom died.
I was.
And when did she get sick?
She first got sick when I was 6 years old, and I think, like most 6 years old, I think I kind of looked at my parents and they said, "Okay, who's taking me to T-ball?" You know, I was ready to keep going, and had no idea the impact of that word or her illness.
Did they use the word cancer to you at the time?
They did.
They did.
But I mean.
And as a child, did you go look it up, or did you try to figure out what it was?
No, I think, you know, my parents, they were, I really thank them for being honest with me, but they really set out to not let the cancer control our family, especially my brother and I's childhood. So I was a very active young child, and it was important for me to keep going.
Right. Did she go into remission, or was she continually sick, progressively worse?
She did go into remission. She was actually misdiagnosed and had the mastectomy, and then, you know, was okay for a couple years, and then it just came back, and it was all over her body. So.
Now, how did they tell you that your mother had died?
I actually, you know, to this day, I'm not sure I ever was told, believe it or not. I believe it. I was in social studies class, and I was called over the loudspeaker.
Right.
And I looked at my friend, you know, and I was like, "It's my mom, I'm not going." And
now, she had been in the hospital for a while?
Yeah, well, no, she had been rushed to the hospital the night before.
Oh.
And still, at the age of 12, I was like, she'll be back, you know?
Right.
And, you know, I was paralyzed at that moment, and went to the hospital, and she was actually taking her last breath, so they brought us to the hospital for that. But, you know, it was all kind of like just this non-communicative environment, you know, where I guess they felt that we would understand visually, and that's, I think, one of the biggest misconceptions of grief.
I agree. Did you understand it all?
I certainly didn't understand the impact of it. There was, you know, even when a parent who, you know, has been sick for 6 years, you never plan for that day after the death.
Yes. It is as if, for me, you know, that's the dividing line in my life. There are two of them. One is March 17th, 1973, when my mother died, and the other is May 25th, 1995, when my son was born. I felt like I went into black and white in 73, and then stepped back into Technicolor in 1995.
Yeah.
Now, how did you deal with your grief? In our family, it was not talked about.
It really wasn't either, and you know, I don't hold any ill feelings towards my father and how he handled it, because I think he didn't plan for that day either.
And he did the best that he could?
And he did the best that he could, and I think we were all scrambling for this love and this emotional healing that, you know, didn't come with her death. And we, you know, her clothes were taken out of the house, you know.
How soon after?
It was pretty soon after. You know, conversation around my mother stopped a lot, and only recently, as I've become comfortable and felt empowered to talk about her as an adult, have we really continued to talk, you know, to start asking stories.
It was the same thing in our family. When my mother died, I was 10, and it was as if the next day she had never existed. No one talked about her anymore. The pictures were down, the clothes were gone, and as a child, you're kind of confused and devastated. And I remember the neighbors said, or my father said, "Your mother passed away." And I remember thinking at 10, well, what does that mean? Passed away. Passed away where? It took me about 5 years to realize she wasn't coming back.
Yeah. I understood that, you know, she wasn't coming back, but I was an adolescent, and there was a stigma around this grief, and there was, you know, going to high school and having to deal with jokes about your mom, and me having to, like, dodge those, and, you know, all I mean, gosh, adolescence is hard enough, and then just to compound it with grief, this thing that the world doesn't like to talk about. You know, our culture especially just pushes it under the rug, and these kids have got to, you know, they've got to know that they're survivors. They've got to know that they have so much hope and opportunity in front of them.
Now, so what did you do with this? How old were you when you decided to explore this grief and how to make it easier for children like we have today, who worked with you, who we'll speak to in a moment? How did you channel it into this Kate's Place?
Well, a couple things happened. One, you know, actually I saw I connected actually with a fantasy friendship that you and Madonna had. I saw that you guys bonded over this loss.
That's true.
And I don't know the depth of your relationship, but that, to me, seeing that on television was the connection, and growing up through adolescence with that. And then when I was 20 years old, I became a volunteer at a camp, and the camp director asked me to open camp with my story. Well, nobody had ever asked me my story before, and so suddenly, instead of just having a one-on-one conversation with somebody, I was in front of 300 people and telling my story, and it was the most liberating and powerful moment. And
Did you cry?
I did cry,
yes.
And I saw all these people, and I saw them as friends, and I saw them as not judging me, and I felt safe around them. And I was I remember I went back to my dad, and I was like, I need more of that in my life.
Yeah.
And so I started Kate's Club, and I was like, this is going to be, about the color, this is going to be about all the bright color that we have. This is going to be about celebrating the life of the people that we've lost,
yes.
of each other.
And of having someone so that you don't feel so different. I remember the stigma in school was very tough. And people, oh, that's the one with the dead mother. That's the kids with the dead mother. And, there's a horrible sense of abandonment, even though, of course, it's not the choice of the parent to leave. But you have to deal with all of those feelings, and there often isn't a place. So when did you set up this place?
So, 4 years ago, I was 24 years old and in a completely different career, and I had no money, but I had a good network in Atlanta. There's just tons of stuff to do. So I started it really small, very grassroots, and just wanted to take these kids to the bowling alley, to the Braves game, again, focus on the fun and the future, but also allow them to just be around each other.
How did you find the children who had lost parents?
Well, that was the hard thing, because as you know, a lot of these families retreat, and especially we don't unfortunately live in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood anymore, so for people to trust me with their kids was my biggest feat to start this thing. So I just would go and I would meet with the families, and the parents would just be like, just tell my kid your story. I just want them to see a survivor. I just want them to see that, you're fun and you're energetic and you're young, and
you lived through it.
And I lived through it.
Yes, that's what I want to tell all the kids who come and see me and say the same thing. You will live through it. And when I did meet Madonna, it was the first time I had met an adult woman who had shared a similar childhood experience. It's a very odd thing to lose a mother to death at that young age, or a father. And tell us about the family you brought here today.
Yes, we have 110 kids in our Kate's Club in Atlanta, and one of our families is the Nanamutus, and their father passed away 2 years ago. And one of the important things about Kate's Club that is different is that we aren't about the immediate attention after the death. We are not, grief is not crisis intervention.
Right.
We are about the long-term development and support of these kids, and
how to live with the fact of the truth of the passing of someone instrumental in your life.
And learning life skills with those grief skills and integrating them to focus on the future. Shammy's about to graduate high school.
And Shammy, how have you found going to Kate's Club? Has it helped soothe your soul in some way?
Extremely. I'm definitely a lot more of an extrovert now. I was not as recluse as some would say, but like before my dad passed away, I just wasn't there. But now I have so many friends. It's built a huge community in me too. So.
And how about for you, little guy? What's your name?
Josiah.
And how old are you?
I'm 9.
And how have you found going to Kate's Club? Has it helped you talk about some of your feelings about your daddy and missing him?
Yeah.
It has. Made you feel a little bit better about the whole situation?
It helped me feel a lot better.
A lot better. And how about you, Mom? Has it been a lifesaver for you?
Yes, it's a lifesaver for me and the kids. Especially I can get the words around community as well. So I was very thankful for that.
I mean, I'm just so proud of it.
No, and I'm proud of you for doing it. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I wish it had been around when I was a child, because, as you know, it's a club that we belong to that we don't necessarily want to be in.
Right, but we have a good time.
Exactly. We're all related, and we can all do it and lift each other up. And hey, tonight, you, them, your new family and friends, Mary Poppins, what do you say? All right, there you go. You can read about Kate's Club in People magazine and our website. Also now, if you don't live in the Atlanta area, Gilda's Club International, Gilda's Club from Gilda Radner's wonderful foundation, does a very similar program. So look into that if you're not in Atlanta. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you
Lovely
so
to meet
much.
you, and thank you all for being here. We'll be right back after this break.